help small businesses level the playing field through digital marketing. So, email marketing is something I thoroughly love and enjoy doing. So, I'm very excited to talk with that with you guys today. And also, fair warning. So, I think I told you, Yasmin, that I'm like doing some stuff in my room. So, like I painted and everything. So, my grandparents are here. I will say helping me finish the floor, but they pretty much did it. And I just was the assistant wherever I could. So
Yeah,
they're here. So if you hear anything, hopefully I'll be able to sleep in my bed tonight. So
it's fine. It's all, the work from home era. It's also becoming the remote and the digital nomad era as
yeah,
well. So that's totally cool. And hopefully you do get to sleep in your room tonight. I know how those remodels can go. It can take 3 times as long.
yes.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I do have a presentation if you want me to share my
Yeah,
screen.
go ahead.
Okay, cool. And I will, let me see if I can open up the chat. It's on the side here, just in case you guys have questions. I want this to be super interactive. So if you do have
Mhm.
questions, like feel free to just jump in and stop me. All right, so I'll
Mhm.
go ahead. So Tanisha English, this is my favorite quote. Don't fashion me as a woman that needs saving from the dragon. I am the dragon. I feel like that describes me so well. So I used to be a one woman show. I am no longer a one woman show. Now we're a team of three. Marie Morgan, she is our digital marketing strategist. And Daviana Fowler is currently our marketing communications intern. Both of these ladies are amazing. So the three of us are now working together to help businesses grow through digital marketing. So here are a few clients that we have worked with, some we are still working with today. So one thing that I pride myself on with what we do is that we don't necessarily align with industries, but more about the mission of the different companies. So we've worked with pipeline companies to churches, um, e-commerce, nonprofits, tons of different clients. So it's been fun to really just work with people who we align with their mission and not necessarily care about the industry. If we align with the mission, we come in and we can do the work. So today we're going to discuss 5 different things, and I'll try to not. I could be long-winded with email, so I'll try to get through all of them. We're going to talk about platforms you can use, lead magnets, welcome series, best practices for email, and then some stats that you should be looking at. So first off, if you don't understand exactly what email marketing is in a nutshell, it's essentially sending one message to multiple people simultaneously. It is also a permission-based marketing platform. So I've seen people, and maybe you've been a part of emails where somebody will like blind copy you on an email with a bunch of people. That's not email marketing, even though people do that. But email marketing is when you actually get permission from people to send them multiple communications. You also might have heard of GDPR, which is not technically something that you have to worry about if you are in the United States, but if you are not, mostly this is something in Europe, but basically this just tells people not to be shady. So don't try to steal people's personal data. Don't email people that did not sign up for your mailing list. It's just a way to protect everyday people from marketers who can sometimes go overboard with trying to get your personal data and send you multiple emails that you did not sign up for. So I personally love email marketing, even though people try to say that it's old and outdated, but that is definitely not the case. Quite frankly, email marketing is really the only marketing platform that you can directly interact with potential customers or current customers and actually see what they're doing from your email. So it's different when you make a post on social. You can see your reach, you can see comments and things like that, but you can't necessarily track if somebody looked at a particular post, went to your website, booked a consultation, and became a client without asking those questions. versus with email, you can kind of follow their trail. And most customers do prefer to communicate with companies via email versus having to send things through the mail or getting text messages or TV ads. A couple more stats about email. Let me move the chat over here. 93% of B2B marketers use email to distribute content. 73% of millennials prefer communication from businesses to come via email, which I feel like millennials get a lot of slack. People think that we're lazy or that we don't use old-fashioned ways of communication, but that's definitely not the case. And 59% of marketers say that email is their biggest source of return on investment. And this was just as of 2019. I know that these 2020 numbers are definitely going to be way bigger than this, considering that we were all stuck at home and working digitally and having no choice but to utilize more emails and more email marketing. There's also a stat from 2019 that says for every dollar that marketers spend on email marketing, their return on investment is $38. So keep that in mind. So right now, are you all currently sending emails, or will this be something new for you? Feel free to drop that in the chat and I'll keep that open as we go
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, drop it in the chat.
Was it something
Okay,
new?
cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I know I'm sending emails, so it's but it's I'm just sending them. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes, awesome. Okay, that's great. Okay, so platforms. There's tons of platforms out there. I've personally used for clients ConvertKit, Constant Contact, MailChimp is a really popular one. There's another one called Klaviyo, but I'm currently using ActiveCampaign for myself. So I can tell you a lot about MailChimp. I started with MailChimp back in, I want to say maybe 2015, and I still use it for clients, but I don't use it for myself. So I can tell you the pros and cons that I personally found with MailChimp and ActiveCampaign because I use both. So if you're using MailChimp, I think that's awesome. MailChimp is super user friendly. It's great for anyone who is just starting out with sending emails. And it also is very easy to integrate with other things. So if you're doing events like Yasmin on Eventbrite, you can connect your Eventbrite account to your MailChimp and help to easily track registrations, making sure, people are getting registered or getting the information that they need to, if they need special access for an event, you can do things that way with Eventbrite. I believe there's still a free version of MailChimp. But if not, I know the entry point is very like the cost wise is super low and very easy to use. The con for me, which will probably not become a con for any of you, maybe until after like the first couple years of using it. But once I started really getting into like automations and drip campaigns, there were some limitations in how I could set up different triggers. So if I wanted to get someone from point A to B, but I wanted to have all these different ways they could get there, I started to run into some complications. It wasn't very user friendly in how they were doing drip campaigns at the time. Since then, I know they've made some changes, so it may be a little bit different. Also, with MailChimp, growing your lists can be costly. So if you're using one of the like lower tier uh, accounts that they offer, I think it may start at like $14.99. It gives you a limit on how many people you can have on your list. And as that list grows, you'll pay for subscribers. So it used to be which it might still be this way, where like your first 2,000 subscribers are free. And then once you got to 2001, you start to pay for new subscribers. So that was something I was running into as well. I also needed more CMS capabilities. So I deemed myself as the world's worst salesperson. I don't like to sell things to people. I just tell you, this is what I offer, this is what I can do, this is the price. If you're down with it, cool. If not, that's cool too. Um, no harm, no foul. But that's probably not great that I'm like that. So that's why I moved to Active Campaign so that it can kind of help me to just track those people a little bit more because I don't like to sell things. I got in trouble for that at jobs in college. I'm not a salesperson. So Active Campaign is what I'm currently using at the moment. So the pros of that is that there's tons of options for drips and automations. There's this deal point system that they have. So let's say if Yasmin's on my list and she opens an email, that will give her 2 points. If she clicks something in an email, maybe that's 10 points. If she forwards it to a friend, that's 20. And once she gets to, let's say, 75 points, it will put her into another drip campaign that may start to kind of try to foster a relationship with her to actually set up a consultation and to work with her or get her to do more things. So Active Campaign is also great for teams that are looking to grow. So if you already have a mailing list and you're active and you're doing things and now you're looking to really grow your business, but maybe you are a one woman show or a one man show like I was, and now you're like, okay, how can I find different ways to connect with people? Active Campaign has been great for that, and I'm really not even using all of its capabilities, so I'm sure next time I do this I'll have even more things to share about it. Some of the cons is that it does cost more than MailChimp. It's definitely not great. Like, I would not recommend it for someone who is just now starting off doing email marketing. Um, the landing pages in it are also complicated to build. They just launched them, so it's not as easy as it is on MailChimp. And building our connecting other platforms and doing integrations are also not super easy unless you've had experience doing this. So, like I said, I used MailChimp for like 5 or 6 years before I moved to something else. So I'm able to figure it out and work around, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it if you're just starting off. So if you're using MailChimp, even ConvertKit is another user-friendly one. Um, Constant Contact seems to be semi user-friendly. I think those are good places to start when it comes to figuring out a platform. Any questions about platforms, or are there other platforms that anyone is using? I've never used Flowdesk before, but I have heard of it because that's like an email system with like a CMS mix to it, right? I think, which those are great because, again, for those of us, I don't know if I said your name right, Yezi. For those of us who are not great salespeople, having a CMS integrated with your email system is great. Klaviyo is another great one. I love that one. I had a client in the past that used it and it was really, really good. I would say it's semi user friendly, but I think it's great if you can start there because you'll be able to kind of flow into other systems, I would say easier because it's a little more intricate than MailChimp, but Klaviyo is great. Um, Okay, yes, I love that. And that's another thing. I think MailChimp offers it now, but in the past, you couldn't visually see your drips and your automations. So that was difficult for me. And yes, Klaviyo definitely integrates really, really well with Shopify. If you are using MailChimp, but you have a Shopify store, there is so Shopify and MailChimp are not friends anymore, so you have to use a platform called ShopSync, which does connect the MailChimp and the Shopify together. It does work really well. So if you're worried about that, there is some workaround there. Um, Okay, so lead magnets. I'm not sure if anyone knows what this is, or you probably have signed up for them before in the past, but essentially, it is a marketing term for a free item or service that's given away when you sign up for an email. So, a lot of times, I'm sure we all have signed up for a mailing list so that we could get 10 or 20% off our first order, or there's some sort of incentive for us to do that. Sometimes they can be trial subscriptions, samples, white papers. I did not put e-newsletters in bold because I don't feel that that's a great lead magnet. Of course, if people are signing up for your mailing list, they're assuming they're going to get newsletters, but when you're giving them something else, that could entice them to sign up for your email list where they can get those e-newsletters. So I don't think that's a great lead magnet, in my opinion. So, some pros and cons to lead magnets that I've personally seen. Of course, a pro is that it's a great way to get people to sign up for your list. So, if I know that I'm going to sign up for this list and I'm going to get something back in return, that is a great way to get people on there. It also gives your subscribers immediate gratifications. So, let's say you send out a newsletter today, but then someone signs up for your list tomorrow. They may not get that newsletter from yesterday, but at least there's something to hold them over until that next email goes out. Um, Exactly. What is the value? Why am I giving you my list? This also allows you to show potential customers what you're all about. So maybe it's an ebook or something, a white paper or a one pager. It gives them the opportunity to kind of see who you are before they go any further. Some cons to think about is how are you going to keep people active and engaged after they sign up for your mailing list? So if you're coming out the gate with like all these freebies, but then you don't talk to people for a month after that, how are you going to keep them engaged? The next time you email them, they may not even remember who you are. And also, will people use their real email addresses? You know you've done it. You've used an email address that you don't really check all like that to get a 20% off because you were buying something, even though you weren't a first time customer. We've all done it. Don't say you haven't. I know you have. Exactly. We've done that before. So thinking about that as well, what are you offering? Is it going to be something of value? Just because it's free doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be something that people will value. And they may just sign up to get that free thing, but they may not actually value you or your business or what you have to offer. So I can show you guys really quick, if I can get out of this, a lead magnet that I currently have. So I have this 6 tips for planning your exit strategy. So if someone signs up for my mailing list, they get this ebook that talks about, 6 things that you can start doing if you're ready to quit your job and work for yourself. Um, so that's something that I found that people have valued, which is cool. So try to think of something that is still related to what you're doing with your business, but can also be a gateway to get people engaged. Any questions about lead magnets? I'll keep my eyes on the chat. Um, so ideally as well, let's say you have this lead magnet set up where they sign up, they get the 6 steps of things to do before you quit your job. You would want to put them into a welcome series. So, a welcome series is essentially a series of emails that people will start to get once they subscribe to your mailing list. Typically, this consists of 3 to 5 campaigns. So, something that I have in my series, because I do this monthly tip, I do Tanisha's tip of the month. So, if you sign up for my mailing list, the first email is, "Hey, welcome. Here's your free ebook." And I let people know, I set that expectation that over the next few weeks, they're going to start getting the best of the best tips of the month that have gone out since they've started. So over the course of a week, they start to get old tips that I had sent out previously, with some basic information about me and the business. So this is kind of like a warm up to what they can expect from the mailing list. And again, this goes back to something else that I mentioned where, if somebody signs up for your mailing list the day after you send an email campaign, this will at least give them something to hold them over until they actually become a part of the mailing list. So yeah, so this sets that expectation for your subscribers. Let them know in that welcome email, hey, thanks for signing up. You will hear from me once a month or once a week. This is also a slow transition into your mailing list. So that way, maybe they sign up, they start getting emails, and they're like, actually, I don't want to be on Tanisha's mailing list anymore. Cool. They can unsubscribe already from the welcome series before they really make it into the full list. And it can just lower the chances of unsubscribes. And it also keeps those new people engaged. And I definitely wouldn't go over 5 emails. I think 3 is a nice soft spot. But maybe you want to have 3 to 5 because if people are not opening those welcome emails, you may want to hit them up and say, hey, are you sure you want to be on my list, or just making sure that they're staying engaged before you toss them into the big list of people on your list. Any questions about welcome series? I'm sure you've probably seen them or been a part of them in the past. All right. So I tried to narrow this down as far as best practices, but there were so many good ones I didn't want to choose. So we're going to talk about 8 of them. I'll try to be quick so we can have time for questions. So, list management. So, when you're building out that welcome series, this is a great opportunity. Oh, that's a good question. Should you not send regular newsletters to those in your welcome series? So, you can. I personally would suggest that until they complete the welcome series automation, I would probably hold off on sending them regular newsletters, just so that they're not overwhelmed, especially if you have like 3 to 5 emails. If you just have one welcome email, like, hey, thanks for showing up. Here's your freebie. Be on the lookout for this, this, and this. Follow me on social. I think it's good to like integrate them into other things. But if you're looking to kind of just get them warmed up to other things, I would exclude them from the welcome series, just so that they don't get overwhelmed. Unless you can just make sure that they won't get a welcome series email and a newsletter email in the same day, because you don't want them to feel like, oh my God, this person's going to email me every day or twice a day. I'm out of here, right? So I would just be mindful of that. Um, so as you're building out your yes, so I that's what I do for my mailing list. I repurpose evergreen content in the series. So I send them like, hey, here's the best tips of the month that you've missed since you're new. And what I'll do is I'll refresh that like once a quarter. I'll go back and see like which ones got a lot of engagement and just include those. I also, after my tip of the month goes out, I put that on my blog on my website. So then I can just do an image, a blurb, the links, and they can just check all of those things out on their own time. So yes, I highly recommend repurposing content, which I'll definitely talk about. Hopefully I can get to that. Um, yeah, so let's talk about this. So, when you're creating your mailing list, I would incorporate groups into your sign up form. So, like I mentioned with MailChimp, and really most email platforms, as you're building out your mailing list, a lot of times people will have one list for people who want to do one thing, and then another list for people who want to do something else. Instead of creating 10 lists, I would have 10 groups, but keep people on one list. So let's say everybody's here on one list. I would create subgroups for the different things that they care about and want to be engaged in. However, I wouldn't create 10 different lists because this will cut down on your subscriber count. So I know with MailChimp, if you have, let's say I'm on your mailing list and you have me on a list of moms who are entrepreneurs and you have me on a list of Black moms who are entrepreneurs, instead of just keeping me on one list and having me in those two different groups, MailChimp is going to charge you twice for having my email in your system twice. So MailChimp, unfortunately, the lists don't talk to each other to say, hey, this person is, already on this list. It doesn't do that for you. You have to do that for yourself. So I highly recommend creating groups, which I can show you um, what that looks like. This also allows you to send targeted messaging, and then you can build out these different segments to reach your business goals or even to help them reach their business goals. So essentially, according now, this is if you're using MailChimp, this is how they kind of categorize groups and segments. You can also think about groups and tags as well, if you've seen that in the systems that you're using. So a group is a collection of contacts categorized by their interests. And if you are using MailChimp, group is customer facing, segments are internal. And these segments can be built based on data. So you can filter contacts based on when someone subscribed, if they're an active email opener, if they're kind of lapsed and they haven't opened emails for a while, you can build out all of these segments. So if I was signing up for a mailing list and there were different groups, this is what it could look like. So if someone's subscribing to your list and they are saying, yes, I'm a business owner, I am on social, and I'm interested in a consultation, they can decide how they want to be a part of your list. Maybe you have a group that says, I want to be emailed daily versus weekly versus monthly. Allowing people to decide how they want to communicate with you will make it less likely that they'll unsubscribe later. Now, don't feel overwhelmed or pressured that this is something that you have to do. However, if you take some time to really think about your goals with your email and think about your mailing list and you build this out from the beginning, it'll really help you to segment your list moving forward. So I definitely recommend that. Now, segments, again, this is based on data. So let's say you're using MailChimp or Klaviyo and you have your Eventbrite connected to your account. If you wanted to create a segment of people who got added to your mailing list within the last 30 days, but they haven't purchased a ticket to an event or they haven't purchased anything from your store, you can create a segment of those people and connect with them directly. So maybe you want to remind them that because they signed up for your mailing list, they have 10% off their first order or 20% off their first order. You've probably seen this before. If you signed up for things and they're like, hey, your code is about to expire, make sure you make a purchase, or hey, this deal is about to expire, make sure you take advantage of it. That's how they do this, is building out these different segments. These don't have to be permanent. You can change them to do different things, but it is a great way to really understand who on your list is active, as well as how people want to interact with you. So I know that can be a little complicated. Do we have any questions about groups or segments or tags? And I'll keep my eyes on the chat for that. Um, Another thing that you can do with these segments, in my second best practice, is to clean your list up. So I personally don't care if you have 10,000 subscribers if only 100 people are opening your emails. Because first off, that means you're paying for these other people, the 9,990 people, you're paying to have them on your list. And this will also definitely impact your open rate. A lot of people, same thing with social media, people care about how many followers you have, but people don't necessarily look at engagement. So you may go to someone's page who you want them to be an influencer for your brand because they have 20,000 followers. But when you actually look at how many likes and comments, they may only get 100. That's not great engagement. So I definitely recommend, I would say you should clean up your list a minimum like every 6 months. Just go through, see who is inactive, see who hasn't opened in a while, and you can send them an email. So here's a couple ways you can do that. So you can create an inactive segment, which if you're using MailChimp, of course, these are screenshots from MailChimp, but it's very similar in any platform you're using, is you can go and you create that segment and you say, okay, campaign activity did not open. Maybe you want to know if they didn't open all emails in the last 3 months. These people are probably not super active. So you can create a segment and you can ask them, which MailChimp does kind of do something automated for you. You can call it inactive subscribers and you can send them an email that's just like, hey, I noticed you haven't opened my emails in a long time. Just checking in to see if you still wanted to be on the list. If yes, you can ignore this email and I'll keep you. If not, click here to unsubscribe. So if they unsubscribe on their own, cool. If they don't open this email, maybe you send one more reminder. And if they still don't open, I would remove them from the list because, again, you don't want to pay for people on your list that aren't doing anything. Like I had a client once who they had an email list of like almost 1 million people. It was like 900 and something thousand. So they were paying like $3,000 or $4,000 a month to MailChimp. But then when we actually went and cleaned up the list, only like 2 to 300,000 of those people were actually opening the emails. So we have like 6 to 700,000 emails on this list and people aren't even active. It was an e-commerce store. So more than likely because they have a sign up for our mailing list and get 20% off kind of thing that's always ongoing. I'm sure people signed up, got the code, bought whatever they needed, and moved on, which we do that. We all have admitted it in the chat. So you just got to be careful about that and just making sure you're cleaning it up. Especially if you're paying to have people on the list. You don't want to pay to have people there that are not active. And I would say that you should clean your list. I mean, maybe once a year, but I would say every 6 months, even if you wanted to do it once a quarter, especially for those. I saw earlier there were a few people in the e commerce space. You may want to do that once a quarter, especially if you're offering something for them to sign up. The third best practice is to really think about the content, making sure that you are building out content that people want to see. So if you sign up for my mailing list and I'm a digital marketer, but I'm talking about dog walking, that's not what you signed up for. So if you're unaware of what exactly content marketing is, you probably see this all the time, but essentially it's materials produced by a business that does not directly promote the business. The purpose of that is really just to position yourself as an industry expert, as well as build awareness for your brand, and you can really become a hub for industry news and trends. So for example, with Yasmin, she talks a lot about digital, a lot about SEO, a lot about building websites, but something that I've seen her do, I would say probably over the last year, is even talking to people about how to DIY their website or things they should think about if it's something that they want to do. Now, some people would say, you build websites, why would you want to tell people how to do it on their own? Because 9 times out of 10, majority of us either don't have the skill set to do that, we don't have the time to do that, and then you may have that 1% who does have the time and has the skills to do it, and that's totally fine. But the purpose of that now is that now she has established herself as an industry expert for digital websites and SEO. So maybe later down the line, that person will want to do something and they know that Yasmin can do it. I'm a perfect example of that. I built my own websites. I know how to do them. But now that I'm really integrated into my business, and I'm growing. I don't have time to build another website, but I need one for Respect the Hustle. So I reached out to Yasmin because I know that her vibe and her style definitely matches mine. And I know that she can build the website that I envisioned for Respect the Hustle. So now I reached out to her to do it for me. So it's okay to give away things because when people need you, they will come. And even if they don't, they will also, um, recommend you to other people. Um, yes, exactly. So that is content marketing in a nutshell. And that is what my tip of the month is all about. It's not like, hey, hire me. It's, hey, here's a marketing tip that you should think about. Content marketing and building out these lists also allow you to send targeted messaging. So again, when we were building out those different groups, if I had a group, which I do, I have groups of people who are interested in social, who are interested in email, who are interested in becoming their own boss. I can send those different groups targeted messaging that resonates with what they originally signed up for my list for in the first place. So that's something to keep in mind, which also keeps people engaged. Content is super important whether you're doing social or email or anything like that. And there are a lot of services out there now that give people the ability to mass unsubscribe from your mailing list. And then also, if you use Gmail or Outlook, you probably notice where you have different inboxes. So with Gmail, you have your primary inbox, you have promotions, which is typically where a lot of e-commerce email marketing campaigns land under the promotions. You have an updates tab, which usually my emails to people from Active Campaign will land there. And then you have, I think it's like forum or social or something like that. Um, so, saying all that to say is that if you're not providing people with great content, it's less likely that your emails are going to end up in their primary inbox. So, Yasmin, her emails for a digital hustle tribe always come to my primary inbox because I engage with them. I open them, I send them to people, I read them. So now that I actively use them, every time she sends me an email, it usually comes to my primary inbox, not my updates tab anymore. So when you have good content and people are engaged, that can happen. Or if I don't see her email, and I know it usually comes at least once a week, if I go to my updates tab to look for it, then I'm going to find it there. Same thing with social media, at least with Facebook. You may like a business page, but never see their posts. That's intentional. So you have to be mindful that you're sending people content. The number one reason why people unsubscribe from mailing lists from businesses is because they either receive too many emails or they receive too many emails that are irrelevant to what they care about. So that's why you really got to think about content with email. I'm really big about planning out your content. So, first off, you really just want to understand what your goals are with email. For me, my goal with email is not to gain clients, it's to build brand awareness, which eventually does lead to clients, but that's not the number one goal. It also, content planning allows you to be more strategic and really just eliminates the burden of creating emails. Same way if you know me, you know I talk about planning out content for social media. The same thing with email. Really take the time to think about what you want your um, email list to be about. Are you trying to sell things? Are you trying to get more clients booked? What exactly are your goals? So, some common goals, like I mentioned, is to build that brand awareness, increase revenue, which we all want, engage with customers, grow your clientele, and sell more products. So, those are some common goals. So, I would think about these. And determine if any of these resonates with you. And then once you know what your goal is, you'll be able to create content that your subscribers really want. And of course, planning it out. Content planning is truly the key. So think about those goals, and have a plan for overall themes and content. You don't have to plan out every single email word for word, but at least have an understanding of what you want your emails to consist of. My fourth best practice, which I know we're getting low on time, is subject lines. Oh my God. Please think about your subject lines, chill on the emojis, make it short and sweet. A lot of times, too, if you have too many emojis, it will go to spam, because our email systems are sophisticated, especially Gmail. Outlook is another good one, that's sophisticated. So if they feel like it's spam, even if it's not, they're going to mark it as spam. Also, make sure that your subject line matches up with the content. So, here are some examples of different subject lines. So, as you can see here with this first one, there's tons of emojis. Also, a ton of exclamation marks could lead you into the spam folder as well. Um, and making it short and sweet, maybe one emoji, one exclamation mark, you should be good. But just try not to overdo it, because more than likely, I'm sure if you saw this first one, you'd be like, okay, what is that? All caps is definitely, you got to be careful with that too. You don't want to make it look like you're yelling at people. And sometimes, not all the time, but that could lead to the spam folder as well. People forget about the pre-header text a lot. This is your second chance to convince that person to open the email. So your first shot was the subject line. Second shot is that pre-header text. If you don't decide what the pre-header text is, the inbox will. You can test on different platforms for word count. And again, just making sure that whatever your subject line or pre-header text is, it actually matches up with the content. So you can see here, here's a screenshot that says, open this email to stay on my list, exclamation mark, question, 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 and a really good reason why you'll want to. So this part is the pre-header text. This PayPal one, they did not decide on a pre-header text. So I just got this first part of the email. So think about that too. So the longer your subject line is, the shorter your pre-header text is, or the shorter your subject line, the longer that can be. So keep that in mind. I know MailChimp and Klaviyo will ask you as you're signing up the email what you want that pre-header text to be. Most platforms will ask you. So make sure you fill that out so that people know what exactly they're getting themselves into if they open that email. Images, using clean images is another best practice. So avoid pixelated images or things that look distorted. They should also match with the content. So again, if I'm talking about marketing, but maybe I have a picture, I don't know, of my dog, unless there's some correlation there, that doesn't really make sense. And the images should look professional. So here, these are actually super old pictures of my daughter. But if I was sending out an email and I wanted to talk about my daughter, this is clearly a selfie, and this is a professional photo. So thinking about what is going to resonate with people, making sure images are clean and crisp. I judge people based on their images, and we all do. So just making sure that they're clean, and I can send to Yasmin to send to you guys, but I do have like some ways that you can like do DIY photo shoots that I've done. If you struggle with pictures. Avoid eyesore fonts. So making sure fonts are professional. We can clearly see this first font is a lot easier to read versus the last two can be a little more tricky. So think about that as well. Using fonts that are common, like Helvetica or Arial, so that it's easy for people to read, especially I wear glasses. Some people have different issues with their eyes. Even thinking about the colors of fonts, definitely think about that. And then lastly, scheduling, figuring out a good time for your mailing list is also a best practice. It's going to be trial and error. So depending on, who's on your list, the times may matter. So if you're emailing moms in the early morning or late evening, may be better. For business people, it may be lunchtime. You can always test this out, doing some A/B testing and really just trying to find a time that works best for your customers. I know MailChimp will allow you to send at optimized times. That's another thing with ActiveCampaign that they don't have that MailChimp does, is deciding that send time for you. Klaviyo, I believe, also does the same thing. Let's see your question. What about an image only email? I used to work for e-commerce company. Yes. So same for me. I used to work for an e-commerce company that did image only emails where they were like sliced out and kind of just put together. So as long as those images are not too big to load, and then in the back end, we did put alternative text on it as well, so that if the picture didn't show up, it still, showed what it was. I think slicing and building out emails is really cool. Usually those will go to like the promotions or updates tab. But as long as you're putting the alternative text on the back end of the image, you should be good with that. And then lastly, thinking about the stats. So opens, clicks, bounces. So an open rate is the percentage of opens per email. And this is what I was talking about when, if you have a list of 10,000 people, but you only have one person who is actually opening your emails, who cares about the subscriber count if our open rates are super low? So that's why you want to make sure you clean up that list at least every 6 months to get people out of there who are messing with your open rates, and to just ensure people are going to be a little more active. The click rate is the percentage of clicks per campaign. So based on, if you have hyperlinks in an email, are people clicking on those? What type of links are they clicking on? Hard bounces and soft bounces. So a hard bounce is when an email campaign fails to deliver because the email address just does not exist. A soft bounce is when it fails to deliver because maybe that person's mailbox is full, their server's busy, or maybe because you slice the email, if the images are too large for that person's inbox, then it won't deliver. Most platforms, including MailChimp, will attempt to deliver that soft bounce email a few times before they deem it as a hard bounce, and they'll usually clean it from your mailing list for you. So just keep that in mind. A lot of times those hard bounces are because maybe someone was signing up too fast, and instead of putting period, you're like .com, they put comma com, little things like that. So if you see those hard bounces, take a look and see if it's just instead of it being a .com, or maybe it's a .co and it should have been .com, little things like that. But keep those in mind as well. I know with MailChimp, if you have too many hard bounces at a time, they will lock you out of your MailChimp account. So you'll be able to log in, but they won't let you send emails because they may feel like you're being shady and sending emails to people who you truly don't know or truly didn't get to sign up. So they will lock you out and kind of force you to like re-authenticate your your email domain, and just making sure that you're not spamming people. So please keep that in mind with the hard bounces. That usually happens as your list gets, starts to grow, but also just making sure that if you have people on your mailing list, they are truly the ones signing up and subscribing. It's not a list that you bought from someone or borrowed from someone. Got to make sure that these people wanted to be on the list. Okay, I try to get through that within the time. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank you for giving us so much information. If anyone has questions, make sure to put them in the chat. And what I'm going to be doing is adding Tanisha's information to her social, her website, all that great stuff in the chat box in case any of you want to take a look at it. And I will also be sending out the replay as well as all those links and all the information on Tanisha via email. So yeah, I did have one question because I was looking through my workflow, and how you mentioned some of the click rates and stuff. So, but for me, it's always like, what can I send to my people?
Mhm.
What click rates should I aim for? And I know you mentioned some of those, but as a startup, it's kind of scary to see that it's such a low percentage. I don't know
Yeah,
how you
honestly,
can your mindset with that.
yes, click rates are typically very low. And then also keep in mind if you don't have anything for them to click, then of course you won't
Oh,
have
that's
any
true.
clicks. Like, okay, that's fine. Um, but honestly, if you can have a click rate of like, you know, 2 to 5%, that's actually really good. Um, Especially for e-commerce. So having those, and also keep in mind too, the bigger the list, the lower your open rate percentage and the lower
Mhm.
your click rate percentage because it's based off that list size. So if you have, I'm not great at math, but if you have,
Yeah, I went to
a
art
list
school.
of 5,000 and like 2,000 people open it and click on it, that's actually really good.
Mhm,
That's almost half of your list that opens your emails and clicks on them.
mhm,
And, some it might be a week or a month that someone was busy, so they didn't open your emails for 2 months, but then they
mhm,
start opening them again, like, that's okay too. So yeah, if you there's, a lot of platforms, I know Mailchimp does, Klaviyo does, Constant Contact might, but a lot of these big platforms will have some data available, like email benchmarks.
mm,
And typically, they'll show you when you go to look at your report, when you set up your account, they ask you like how many people, how long have you been in business, how many people work for the industry for your business, and based on other companies who have been open a similar amount of years with a similar amount of employees, it'll show you, where you stand based on like open rates and clicks. Compared to other people of similar standing. So
mhm,
you can look at those things. They also have big like benchmark reports that'll list out, different industries and what the average open rate and click rates are of those people too. So those are ways you can kind of see where you compare. I always try to aim for like a 20 to 30% open rate with like a 2% click rate is like a
mhm,
good place to start. But again, giving people more opportunities to click. So making sure you're
yeah,
linking out photos. And if you mention something, even though you might have a button for it, make sure you hyperlink the text as well. So, the more opportunities you give people to click,
mhm,
that will help with the click rate too.
yeah. Oh, and it's so annoying. Sometimes I click on the picture thinking that it's a link, and
Hmm.
it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then what do you think about personalizing those emails? So you know how it can say like, "Hey, friend," or like, "Hey, Yasmin." What
Yeah.
um, what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely do that if you can. So, um, with that sign up, make their email and their first name like mandatory
Hmm.
or required for them to subscribe so that you can personalize it because those emails definitely tend to land better in the inbox when it mentions the
Yeah.
person's name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would say though, just make sure that it's either just the first name because sometimes
Right.
I have seen it come through as, "Hey, Yasmin Robles," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Okay. Yeah.
We're full name basis right now.
Yes, definitely make sure it's just the first name and then also have some conditional formatting too in case their name isn't
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
So it says, "Hi, Yasmin," or "Hey there," "Hi,
Yeah.
friend," or "Hey, hustler," like something else.
Yeah.
So that's not because if you don't, it'll just say, "Hey, comma."
Yeah.
So it'll be like a space in between where you could tell
Yeah.
someone's supposed to be there, but they don't have
Mhm.
your first name, so there's nothing there.
Yeah. Oh, man, your service. Tell us how we can get a hold of you. I put the links in the chat, but tell us
Yeah.
about your company and how we can
Yes.
get on your email list.
Yes, so if you go to my website, tjecommunications.com, you can sign up there. Of course, you can connect on social media. And then if you click the link in bio on Twitter or Instagram. You can sign up that way as well.
Mhm. All right. Well, if and nobody else has any questions, then we will let you all go. We have one more minute left. But thank you so much, Tanisha. And as I said, please connect with her. She is amazing. Get on her email list, follow her. She is just a wealth of information when it comes to email, but also some social and just really great a connection to have. And I will be sending out the replay and show notes and everything as soon as I can, and probably tomorrow, to be honest, but probably tomorrow. But that will be in your email. And yeah, reach out to me if you have any questions. And with that, everybody have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Thank you.
Bye.